Hi, Lily. That's kind of the point right now. I'm not announcing it. I'm going to let people guess as I draw. Typically, I would start this halfway through another live stream, but yesterday after I ended, I just stopped at the end of the portrait I finished yesterday, which was John Bernthal. Oh, there you go. Matthew's right. So first time someone's guessed that quick. I figured it would be fast with his nose. Thanks. Yeah, it's I've drawn him a handful of times because I always like the geometry of his nose. Kind of the same with like John Barenthal and guys like that. Not that they're both boxers, but they definitely both have a boxer's nose. This is a new reference photo that I'm using compared to a few of the other drawings I've done in the past, though. Nice crisp high-res photo. Thanks, Trish. So this is day 31 of drawing every day in a row at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So far, it's only been a handful of days that's been kind of an uphill battle for the energy and focus to draw these, but so yeah, I'm kind of at that halfway point. I've mentioned this most days that I've drawn, but I usually try to run every day. And although I did run, the treadmill I was on kept having issues, and then my Apple Watch stopped tracking my workout over and over. So I feel like I've been like running underwater a bit. So I'm trying to get my second wind here. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I feel like sometimes if my watch doesn't track it, it doesn't count, even though I know it's stupid. But usually I talk about how like the days that I run, I feel more like drawing. I feel more focused while I draw. I'm kind of in that in-between spot, like unfulfilled workout. Definitely didn't get any endorphins from that. Also, I'm coming off of an injury, so it's kind of it's a frustrating first day back. So I'm trying to summon all the, wow, I can. Some of these days I don't talk very much, but I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep if I don't sit here and chat a little bit. So, and I think I've got 5 more days after this of drawing on this schedule. I'm going to be doing some traveling. I'll still be trying to go live every day. I will at least be posting the drawings I do if I don't have good Wi-Fi to go live, but the idea is that I'll just live stream at a different time. And for those of you that don't have the patience to watch 2 or 3 hours of drawing every day, I time-lapse the finish. So you can see them in a 10-second version and usually about a 3.5-minute version. Especially if you're trying to learn how to draw, that'll kind of show the whole process in a few different ways. If you do have the time, draw along, ask questions, ask me about other stuff. I usually don't talk about drawing while I draw. It's kind of like wearing a hat on a hat. Years ago, I got offered the chance to film a little documentary that he was a part of. And I was really excited. It was sort of a last minute filling in for another cinematographer. And although I had a nice camera at the time, it still wasn't up to par with what they were using. And I didn't have any way to digitally capture. I was shooting to mini DVC. Tells you how old that is. The director of the documentary was texting with me, or well, emailing maybe. No, it was text. And they asked me what cards my camera used, and I said I use mini DVC, but I'll transfer it digitally for you. And then I just never heard back. And then sold that camera within the month, bought a 5D Mark II with all the filmmaker accoutrement, and then never got any jobs like that again. So it was like kind of a catalyst to get a different camera, but ended up going in a different direction anyway. but it was a direction that ended up working out well, so that's all right. I would have liked to have been there though, because it was him, Willie Nelson, Woody Harrelson. It was kind of the who's who of that crowd, if you know what I mean. There's a thing that in an interview Luke Wilson did, he said that his brother's always been kind of the funny one, funny and original. There's a thing that he says every time he gets home, and his brother always laughs when he hears it, but it's such an Owen thing, he could never take it. He closes the door, puts his keys down, and says, "Home, honey, I'm high." It's the most Owen Wilson thing. Fellow Texan as well. Actually, an interesting fact about Owen Wilson. So he has the two other brothers. Everyone knows Luke Wilson probably, but Andrew Wilson plays the, if you've seen Bottle Rocket, he's Future Man. He's the kind of bully of the movie. But he's also, and he has a couple cameos in Royal Tenenbaums. He's the one that accidentally cuts off Margot's hand, or her finger, when she goes to find her original family, and he calls her Sister Maggie. And then the BB that's stuck in the hand that they say is Chaz's, which is Ben Stiller's character, that's actually Andrew Wilson's hand, and he really does have a BB stuck in it. But their dad used to work for a BBC affiliate, which may have been PBS at the time in Texas. And he got a tape of this British comedy show, and he would test out things that he got on his three sons and ask if they liked it or if they thought it was funny. And they all loved it. They were obsessed with it. And it turns out that that was Monty Python. And the Wilson brothers, because it was the first U.S. affiliate to play Monty Python in the States, are inadvertently responsible for Monty Python making it to America. Because three little boys thought it was funny, which I thought was great. And although they were more of a Dallas family, so my family's all originally from Houston, Rushmore, which was Wes Anderson's second feature film, all the filming of that happened between two different neighborhoods in Houston. One of them where you see Max Fisher's house, or I'm sorry, not Max Fisher's house, his teacher's house. The big columns, that's Sunset Boulevard in Houston. It's in the museum district, and that's where my great-grandparents lived. And then his dad's barber shop is Doug's Barber Shop, and that's at 11th and Cortland. And what's up, Travis? I didn't see you there. When my family and I lived in Houston several years ago, I was walking our dog one day, who I've talked about a little bit, but her name was Zissou, because I'm a big Wes Anderson fan for some of the reasons I'm about to tell you. I was walking her one day, and she stopped to sniff this pot outside of a barber shop. And I looked across the street, and there was the laundromat from the reverse shot with Jason Schwartzman when he's talking to his dad in the movie. And then I realized I was standing in front of the barbershop they used, which is at 11th and Cortland, which is right down the street from where we lived, same block. That's in the Heights in Houston. And then the school that they used for the high school is actually my dad's elementary school. Bunch of little tie-ins there, a lot of Texas stuff. But both Bottle Rocket and Rushmore were very Texas-based. And then he kind of pivoted and went more in New York, which is also another funny thing. There's, when Gene Hackman recently passed away, there were a lot of people talking about how he was kind of known for being difficult and how he didn't treat Wes Anderson well. Even Bill Murray said that he was hard on his friend Wes. Some of the scenes he's talking about, specifically where that happened, one of them they blocked off one of the parks, or part of the park that's across from the Empire State, or not Empire State Building, from the Statue of Liberty. And Gene Hackman is standing in front of the statue, and he couldn't wrap his head around why they wouldn't show it if they blocked off the park and made all these people wait to see it. And Wes Anderson's point was that he didn't want them to be in a specific New York, he wanted them to be in his New York. You got here from the Alicia Eagle film stamp. Funny, I made that so long ago. I think I made that in like originally in 08. This is live drawing. The game is already up because it's already been guessed, but I'm drawing Owen Wilson right now. What brought you to the Alicia Eagle film stamp? That's like one of the oldest pieces of stop frame animation that I've made. And very funny, I was actually talking about her yesterday. So if anyone is lost, like our friend Rami might feel as he's stumbled into an art live stream. Alicia Eagle is someone that I played with. She played piano and sang. I was very talented. And I made a bunch of videos and stuff for her. I played bass and sang in her band for about a year. I want to say that was like 08 or 09, something like that. But I made projection for our live shows for this big benefit concert in Louisiana. And then toured all over the US with her. She married an actor and lives in the Upper East Coast now. And I think has like a recyclable shop. I don't know that she's stuck with music. She should have. She's good. It's kind of like Diet Fiona Apple. Maybe Rami did before I answered. Yeah, I remember making that. A film stamp is something, I don't think they really even call them that anymore. It's kind of an older, outdated term, but it's what you'd see like Universal Pictures or MGM or the now taboo Weinstein Company kind of thing. Some of them are more iconic, like Universal Pictures or things along those lines, but we wanted a film stamp for all of her videos, whether it was a music video or a tour update or something like that, so you kind of see it start and end the same way. And I basically pulled apart the layers of her album art that she made, and then a really talented artist that I'm lucky to be friends with, a guy named Calvin Sprague. He owns Pavlov Visual. He and his twin brother do. They kind of overhauled the art and made it even cooler, and then that went on to be like the vinyl cover and stuff. But I made it where she's it's stop frame animation, not onion skin over, like layered by hand, but same concept done digitally, but no keyframing, and it's her hanging from a piano wire, and then samples of piano strikes from one of the songs that we were recording at the time. And then I played bass and sang on that album. I made all of her tour documentary stuff. That was a fun band to be in, because one of my good friends, Alex, who I've mentioned on this before, he was the drummer. It's kind of a coup that we got him, because his band fell apart right as I was getting picked up on that band. But I made that animation, and then it kind of spun off into a long side career along with all my music. But it's funny to hear that people are still finding that. It's way, way back in my YouTube channel. I'm not sure who that is, Adam. So I talked about this with drawing eyes a few times. You can usually tell what kind of lights they're using. This is from a promo, like a red carpet, specifically for Owen Wilson. His pupil is a little bit smaller, which usually implies a few things, but it's an exposure sensitivity, so that means that it's not just from a hot flash or a hot shoe flash is what I mean. It's from multiple flashes going off, and he's looking at one camera, which is why you'd see multiple reflective surfaces in the eye. I'm going to broaden that one here in a second, but if they're using like a quick flash or a strobe, you usually don't see the iris, or not the iris, but the pupil react within the photo if it's at a high shutter speed or if that was a guess. Somebody already answered. Matthew got it already. All right. But yeah, going back to what I was talking about, touring with Alicia was fun. Got in a lot of trouble in that band. She was pretty strict, but still talented nonetheless. I'll put it this way, that's a band where when I was younger, I discovered what IPA was in that band. So many a hangover, many a drunken night. Forgot to plug in my phone. Bear with me, a little shake here. There we go. Yeah, that's a blast from the past to see Alicia Eagle's name pop up. I've noticed that a lot of people can't process that somebody might be like a multi-discipline artist. It's kind of the same thing as people not being able to process a musician also being an actor or a filmmaker, musician, animator, illustrator, photographer. But in my experience, some people that are intuitively creative, or as I used to say, like compulsively creative, like you don't have control over the creativity, you just are creative. They're usually multi-disciplined. Like there's a million examples of that, but there's a lot of people that are wildly talented in multiple fields. Not saying that I fall into that category, but I certainly do have a few different things that I do. It's hard for people to market though. So in the past, when I've talked with like creative managers, they're like, pick one thing. It's like, why? Why not do all of it and just utilize every skill set, which is why like any of the animation or film stuff that I have on my account also has music that, a lot of it, not all of it, has unlicensed music. It's because I made the music as well. I think it's also like a pretty common thing. And I've talked about it a little bit in some of these live streams. I did talk about like actors that have really terrible music. So I get it. But it's also like when you find out that someone's already really successful at acting and then they also have like a music career that they're trying to start. But mine kind of all have been simultaneously happening. And as it is with most creative processes, if you do that for a living, there tends to be a lot of downtime, either between projects or when you're waiting for other portions of projects. So you gotta entertain yourself. To that same point though, some of the musicians that I've worked with that are only musicians and it's their only skill set are by far some of the worst musicians and most difficult people to play with. It's I think a lot of it is identity crisis stuff. They get wrapped up in what their identity is, and usually they're convinced it's their music. Which that's something that it's understandable, but just speaking from a lot of experience, people that are like that, they either have a short career or they're funded some other way, like parent funding, or sort of already have money to do it, you know. Like that's kind of what I'm doing is a lot of what I do creatively is sort of intuitively connected in my mind. Like the photography aspect of my career is insightful on drawing because I understand contrast and light sources and like how lighting from different angles creates a completely different drop shadow, or you know, things along those lines. Drawing and animation are always kind of tethered, in my opinion. Even though a lot of my animation was a digital recreation of an analog process. And then also to that point, having been like a career musician, a lot of the drawing that I do is to like a certain music playlist that has like relative BPMs and tempos to keep up pace, but also sometimes, like yesterday, I did a lot of stippling, which is a sort of dot shading on John Brenthal's facial hair. And I did all that to 2 songs and just played them on repeat until I was done because the tempos made sense for what I was doing. So there you go. Intertwined, multidisciplinary artist. It's a hot day in San Francisco, which it's not hot if you look at the temperature, but there's no AC here. So it feels pretty awful. Sort of feels like the whole city starts to smell like hot trash when it's like this. It's not too different from like a New York summer day. Oh, right on. Rami's still here. I hope that's her name. Cool. yeah, well, I'm glad I can inspire. Yeah, it's I don't know, I've heard a lot of people say this and quote this. Here's a video that was floating around for a long time. It's a guy with like a giant white beard, and he says, "Hey, you don't need any permission to do cool stuff. Just do it." I feel like everyone should just embrace that. But you don't need any permission to be creative, and there's no rules on what you have to do. Like, this is only one of the styles that I draw in. I draw ballpoint pen, fountain pen, do architectural and urban sketch stuff, but I enjoy portraits the most. And then these days I'm a little bit pickier about who I animate for, because it's more tedious, and when somebody asks for changes on animation, it's kind of like sort of defeating, like, yeah, sure, I'll dig back into that whole thing and sacrifice 3 days to make that change that you just want to see. Plus, AI is kind of taken over a lot of what people would hire animators for. But yeah, I don't know. I think when somebody is genuinely creative, they're just creative. It's a bit in the blood, though. My family's all kind of like that. A lot of artists, and musicians, and photographers, and filmmakers. Some funny, washed-up actors. I have, oddly, 2 family members that have been in separate iterations of Star Trek, which as a kid, that was always really fun. Like, I couldn't believe it. If anyone's curious about that, one of them was my Uncle Dan. He was, I can't remember which Star Trek movie it is. It's the one with Kim Cattrall. She fires a phaser at a pot that he's stirring in a kitchen. He makes sort of a noise and then backs up. And then one of my cousins was a Klingon in, I think, in Enterprise, and she only had one line. I think she tells like the captain that the photons are armed. And funny enough, she's the actress that's in the original Pace Picani commercials. She's the actress at the diner. So, like, funny little things, but even then, like, for people who didn't really have like a long career in what they were doing, they were creatively inclined. But that said, I've also played in bands with people that no one was creative in their family, and they were just naturally creative. Just pops up in different forms. You never know where it's going to come from. So, almost an accidental Forrest Gump quote. Rami, if you're still listening, how did you get to the Alicia Eagle film stamp? If y'all can hear those birds, those are the San Francisco parrots. They sound like they're laughing. All right, let's add some texture to the iris so it doesn't look as crazy. Search results, hoping I'll find some not before seen song. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's some deep cut stuff. That's old. I can recommend songs that you probably haven't heard. Yeah, Alicia, to my knowledge, doesn't play anymore. Oh yeah, SF ambience. It's cool when it's the city ambience. I like that aspect of it. Um, we've yet to have like a really good foggy day on these drawings, which is pretty impressive because it's 31 days in a row now. Um, but you can hear the foghorn from where we are, the one at the Golden Gate. Foghorns, there's two of them. They go off every 16 seconds. So it's kind of like a peaceful thing, but usually it's early in the morning or it's in the evenings. But yeah, the parrots, I love that there are a few different sources, but one of them is that a homeless guy won the lottery a while back and he bought a ton of parrots and released them in the city, and that's where most of the San Francisco parrots came from. Just what an influence and a legacy to have on the city. There's a documentary about it floating around somewhere. One of my neighbors told me about it because I guess he knew someone that worked on it. So that's more of the ambience that I don't like, is the slamming of dishes and silverware. So I was talking about irises the other day, about how incredibly different they all are from person to person. Several in a row that I had have sort of vertical lines in their eyes, whereas Owen Wilson has more of arbitrary, like ovular patterns. So it's almost like scribble method makes more sense for his irises. Rami, if you're still looking for music to listen to, I don't know what style you're into, but one of the main ones I always recommend is Andy Shauf, Shauf. He's starting to get more and more popular. He's got a lot of traction happening, but he's one of my favorites. Really kind of subdued, low energy, creative writing, good players. He's also in a band called Foxmoran that's a little bit more upbeat. He's one of my favorites. But if you mention what kind of music you like, I could probably recommend some stuff. Whether it's people I listen to or friends of mine that play, or some of my old bands. And then if anyone has anything they're curious about or subjects, throw them out. Can't guarantee I'll talk about them, but I'm a little bit of a conversation jukebox. If you put a coin in, I'll tell you a story. I noticed the other day when I was talking trash about touring with cannons that people really liked that. So if anyone wants to hear like band dirt, I've got a bunch of that. Or I've also got positive stories. Happy to go either way. And again, like I said the other day, I'm only like that if somebody's truly been not cool to me or people in front of me. Actually, I have a story I could tell just while I'm waiting for people to chime in regards to Alicia Eagle, since Rami showed up from one of those videos I made for her. So bear in mind, we were all a lot younger. I was definitely a bit of a, younger, like, wouldn't say hothead, but I had less of a worldview. She had some rules that me and the drummer Alex didn't really love, and so we would kind of bend those rules a little bit. This is like R-rated, but kind of party related. We're having a good time, young guys on tour. And like I said, we were drinking a bit and whatever, but we had like a really bad night in Pittsburgh, and she kind of lost her temper with us, and so we both quit. And we were kind of on the point of like, we'll just ship our stuff home and fly home. Like, we got other gigs. And then she kind of backed off of that and realized that we would actually bail. And so she sort of reset and asked us to stay on the tour. And I forget the exact timeline of this, but we had a couple like sort of awkward shows. One of them was in Austin, and she was really irritated with us. And it was at Saxon Pub, which if anyone's been there, seen a show or played there, there's a door that you load in and out of if there's multiple bands, and the door just opens up to the parking lot from the back of the stage. It's a little half door. And the guy who played Jerry Lee Lewis and Walk the Line, his name is Waylon Malloy Payne. It's a great dude, good hang. We were playing a show with him, and he was kind of hip to her being a little mad at us and being a little bit, to be fair, she was being rude. She was being kind of bossy, unnecessarily harsh with us, and Waylon picked up on that, and we were all kind of trying to get our stuff off the stage, out of that little door, and she had this big Yamaha piano that she was struggling to get out. And Waylon had been, talking with us, and was kind of just, he was hip to the fact that she was being a little rough. And he had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he sort of posted up in the doorway where we couldn't get in to help her, and intentionally, and watched her kind of struggle. And she said, "What, you guys aren't going to help me with this?" And he kind of blew smoke in her face and said, "That looks heavy, little sister." And it was just funny because I love Walk the Line. It's a movie I've talked about a little bit. It's a James Mangold film with Joaquin Phoenix, and good cast, but that guy was the perfect casting for Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, minus the weird romance and scandalous stuff of that guy's real life, but he basically was that character. And I remember we were dying laughing, trying to not be too obvious about it because he was sort of taking up for us. But one of the cooler run-ins. I remember him being really sweet too. He asked if we played with other people. The drummer, Alex, already had 2 other gigs, and I had another one I was about to bail for. And but in retrospect, that would have been cool to play with him. Maybe it'll happen down the road. And I know he's still doing stuff. Which, oddly enough, I was talking about this the other day. We toured with, one of my other bands toured with Shooter Jennings, and he played his dad, Waylon, in Walk the Line. So I got to hang out a good deal with him, too. And he was fun, despite being a little out of touch with reality. So you kind of get like a glimpse into the world of being the son of a legend, which has got to be a lot of pressure. Travis, I haven't asked you what type of music do you listen to? Oh, right on. Were you in here the other day when I was talking about, I think you asked me about it, starting tour, like being in the band with the cousins from Pantera? Oh, yeah. That was a cool experience. Um, we had several, I mean, they had a lot more after I left that band. We had several hangouts with them. Um, when I was, I think it was a sophomore or junior in high school, we went to Vinnie Paul's house after a ZZ Top and Kenny Wayne Shepherd concert that we went to, which is kind of a surreal experience, especially being that age. But definitely a unique experience. Um, we like we went to his house late. We had already gotten back to the hotel after going to the concert, and you have to keep in mind we were all in high school, uh, so we were like the kids from the band that they were cousins with. But yeah, we went to his house. It's pretty wild. We thought it was a good joke, like a gag, when we pulled up because when we got out of the truck, um, we could hear Britney Spears really loud. And it was "Hit Me Baby One More Time," and then we got to his door and he like flung open this giant like castle like double door. And he was wearing silk boxers with like a do rag on his head, like, and then his home phone. He had like this VTech cordless phone clipped on the boxers. It was kind of funny, but he had a jukebox that didn't have any metal or rock in it. It was just all like kind of pop music. It was really funny. But he gave me a whole case of Vic Firth 2B sticks. And we got to like play in his jam room, and it was funny. They were picking on me because I played with my drumsticks the right way around. And he said, if you're gonna play hard, you got to turn them around backwards. I was like, killed my forearms because it's heavy. You know, it's a lot of work, but it was cool. I mean, it was a unique experience getting into touring that way. I broke my double bass pedal in high school and was really upset because I'd have to go and like work to afford a new one. And he got wind of that and sent me a double Pearl Eliminator series that he had done as like a signature series for a while. And then like another case of Vic Firth 2Bs, which I still have a couple of those. I've got a couple pairs in storage that I just never played with. Because at the time I used to notch up my sticks really hard. I would rim shot almost every time I hit my snare. And so I would just chew through sticks. But yeah, it was interesting. And then we that band, we're all young. I mean, our youngest guitar player, she wasn't even in high school. She was 13 when I joined the band, but she was a virtuoso, and she had it was before Dime went to Washburn. He was with Dean as his signature series guitar, and they wouldn't alter the headstock, and so he left them. And he played like on the Far Beyond Driven tour with the Dean guitar. That's a sort of a sunburst. It's before he got into like the Dime Slimes, the Dime Bolt, and all the really popular guitars. And he had this plaque put on that guitar, like a gold plaque that said how many shows and what tours, and it was like the Far Beyond Driven tour, and it was sort of like a wood grain horizontal stripe, orange to yellow sunburst, and he gave that to April, who was his cousin that was the guitar player. So that's what she played in our band, which was kind of nuts. It was also weird because it was just a different shape than all of his signature series guitars. That band was called Premonition, spelled in a very metal way. It was kind of funny. They went on for years after I quit. And then my buddy Chance, that was the guitar player in that band, he still plays. He's out in West Texas doing his own sort of metal thing. He's also one of those guys that's insanely good and a talented artist. He used to do airbrush for like motorcycle tanks and helmets and stuff. But yeah, we got to meet a lot of cool people through them. Met Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains when we were in high school, which was cool. But every once in a while, when they didn't have shows and festivals, Vinnie mainly would show up at like our residency shows. So he came to this place where that band was we had a residency for a few months where we played every Friday, Saturday night at this place called the Longhorn in Abilene, which my dad used to refer to lovingly as the Drinking Stab, because it's kind of rough around the edges. But yeah, it was an interesting time. And we had a Halloween show, and Vinny showed up and brought Jerry Cantrell. It was a trip. Yeah, we started as like a classic rock band. We were like if you named a song, it's actually a very true and embarrassing story, but excuse me. We didn't get the Freebird joke because we were all young and eager to play, and somebody yelled Freebird as a joke, and we were like, yeah, we know that, and we played the whole thing, solos and all. And then we finished, and this was before we went like full metal with that band. We finished and somebody yelled Freebird again, and we're like, all right, and I just counted it off and we started again. We didn't really get that they were giving us a hard time because we were all young. We had to have like our parents there to chaperone us to play the shows. But yeah, it's interesting times. It's something, I don't really listen to metal anymore, but I definitely did when I was in that band. That guitar player Chance that I was just talking about is still one of my buddies. He, when we first met, could barely, I wouldn't say barely, he couldn't really play a lot of stuff on guitar. He knew all of his chords and could get around a little bit. And then summer hit. It was I was going to be a sophomore, he was going to be a senior, I think. I think we were 2 years apart. And we didn't see each other all summer, and this is, again, I told a story yesterday that really ages me, but we had voice messages that were like on a tape, like an answering machine. And I got this message, and it was somebody playing Joe Satriani, like note for note. Like so close I thought it was like a recording of like a soloed guitar track. And I realized that Chance just sat at home all summer and just learned guitar and went from being like relatively novice to suddenly playing circles around me, which makes sense because I ended up playing drums in that band. But it's kind of a testament to like how determined people, if you're super determined, you can definitely carve it out as a skill set. This is off topic, not that there is like a really specific topic, but I just got a citizen notification, which if anyone is unfamiliar with that, it's sort of like local crime, which we have to monitor in San Francisco just because of the sort of ongoing city stuff that happens here. And it just said, 2 were slapped in the head by a man in Nob Hill, which just makes me wonder what's going on. think I've effectively chased everyone off by talking again. It's alright. If you don't want to hear me talk, don't watch. I mentioned this earlier, but this is day 31 of drawing at the same time every day in a row. And then I'm going to draw every day at the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, until the 13th. So I think that's what, 5 more days. If I have time on the 14th before we take off, I'll get on early and just do a little bit of a drawing. Just kind of depends on what's going on that day. I'm pretty determined to run before I have to go fly anywhere. If anyone's curious about how I mark out different measurements on the face without a ruler, I still do it to get scale appropriate, but in terms of markers on the face, you can always, on your reference photo, trace the corner of the mouth up to a reference point on the eye, which this is just slightly wide. Usually there's some kind of symmetry in that. I'm gonna close the window real quick. Somebody doing their recycling outside. Right on, Travis, no worries. Thanks for coming on. If anyone's curious what all that noise is, that's what it sounds like anytime any of our neighbors take out trash or recycling. It's a real hoot. That's why I don't ever mark these videos as ASMR, because I can't guarantee that they'll have good audio. And kind of to Travis's point about catching up later, I might actually draw for a little less time today, because I've been clocking at almost 3 hours a day. and I need to do some travel prep. But I will be back on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll keep drawing for a little while, probably get to like an hour and a half or so. And then, like I said earlier, if anyone doesn't have the patience to watch me draw for a few hours, these are all archived. And I do time lapses after I finish each one. So you can see the process from start to finish in about 10 seconds or 3 minutes, whichever you prefer. Something I was talking about the other day that kind of popped up today that is relevant. I was speaking of the fact that most galleries, specifically here in San Francisco, don't seem to be concerned about the quality or purpose of the art. It seems to be more of like a identity politics type of thing, and really, really like a capitalist chase of like a really wealthy person opening a gallery and then wanting to kind of capitalize on that in terms of profit rather than showcasing art. Sure, there's some exceptions to that, but they're very few. Not just in my experience, with quite a few people I know as well, a lot of other artists and photographers. And I saw this thing being promoted, and I said, if you're a multi-discipline artist in San Francisco, let us know, because they're wanting to put together a show. And I sent my info in for both my photography and my drawing. And then I saw that regardless of the quality, they responded to everyone for a participation link. And I looked into that company, which I'm not going to name them, but turns out that they just kind of blanket approve people that have a certain amount of followers. And it's not really a quality thing. And then they essentially do like these big art parties in random cities, which seems kind of more like a profit grab. Sort of like the landscape of the art world in San Francisco. Like you almost have to do like art shows in restaurants now or coffee shops. I think it's pretty easy to feel like discouraged if that's your goal to get into gallery stuff. I have unpopular opinions about a lot of museum and galleries in general, though. I don't really appreciate a lot of what they do. Like a lot of modern art to me is just sort of someone's idea of making something and then justifying what the point of it was after they'd made it. But not to say that I don't like modern art. I mean, I'm from Houston. I've been to the Rothko Chapel a lot of times. But there's this kind of whole movement of people getting into it for the wrong reasons. There's a phrase in that film Amsterdam that I like a lot where they say that one of the characters followed the wrong god home. And I kind of feel like that's the art scene all over. And just to reiterate, that's not really even in reference to my stuff. I'm not bitter or rejected or anything. It's more so about the quality of the art, the photography that I see in these places, when I know so many people off the top of my head that are far more talented and hardworking, and they don't really get much for it. It's kind of odd, like everyone seems to be paying for views now. Like even bands. I mentioned yesterday, I was kind of talking about how terrible it was to tour with a relatively successful band last year, or the year before. I'd have to look back. I think it may have been the year before now. And even on that tour, I'd be sitting in the green room, and the headlining band that's posting that they've sold out shows, how well everything's going. I'm getting ads from them and Columbia Records for ticket sales for the next show. It just kind of made me think, well, is it an accomplishment if you're paying thousands of dollars in ads to then post like how grateful they are that they've sold out? So it's not based on merit, it's based on budget, how bored someone is. And then the last tour that I was on, that kind of made me never want to be on a tour again, which is saying something, because I did it from 2003 to 2016, and then took some time off and went back to it. The band that was a co-bill on that band, or on that tour, they were paying multiple thousands of dollars in ads, and it showed, because at their shows, no one really knew anything about the shows. It was just kind of like bored, random demographic people that didn't buy merch, and they were just kind of there to get lit up and didn't stay for the entire show. It's kind of a weird thing. Like, is it a successful band if they're having to pay for even the attendance of shows and ads? Or is it just kind of another symptom of a failed industry? But it's all kind of related, though. It's also wild to me, that band needs to come down just a bit. That you said SpongeBob last time. That band also, right after their set, turned on the loud house music to have like a dance party instead of selling merchandise, which I'm not sure if they understand, but when the venue doesn't take a cut of your merchandise, that's the bulk of your income that night. And they tried to do that on every show at that tour. It was awful. For the sake of the archive, since I don't save the chats, I get repeated guesses that are obviously wrong. That's what I was responding to. It's kind of why I quit posting that I was going to do any sort of guessing of who I was drawing, and really mainly for Travis, who dipped already because he had a company. He's been like pretty consistently in these lives talking. He and another one of the people that have been following along, they liked guessing, so it was more so for their sake. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to draw for as long tonight. Hi, Lily. I'm going to get this to a decent stopping point. I might draw a little longer than an hour and a half, but you know, the objective with these is to have a little accountability for the art that I'm working on a daily basis, which I've already achieved today, and to have like a little community around it. I will say I've had like a good experience with a lot of people in that sense, quite a repeat viewers, a lot of people supporting by, it's like I've had several people subscribe and come back and, you know, comment on stuff to let me know they couldn't watch the live but wanted to go catch up, which I think is really sweet. But if you're listening to me ramble or watching me draw, I think you could probably get the idea that I'm not super interested in I'm trying to word this in a friendly way, in basic interaction in terms of lowbrow humor or stuff like that. Sort of here to encourage people to participate in a meaningful way. I think my patience with some of the less intelligent comments are, and my patience with that is wearing a little thin, because it's free entertainment or free education if you have questions. That kind of tells me right there. I make a few comments and people dip. I think people forget that I don't have to be super polite if they're not participating in a good way. So it's sort of their loss. Although I'm relatively positive and very encouraging for people that are interested, I also don't mind being real with how I actually am. Thank you. Appreciate that. I do draw with a reference. It's over off to the side. I've talked about it a little bit before, but right now I'm drawing from an iPad reference. And so the reflection from my lights makes it pretty impossible to see on camera, which pretty soon I'll start drawing from printed references. I'll see how it goes. I mean, a lot of the time when I've live streamed horizontal, nobody watches for very long because I think most people are watching on phones. But if there's a desire for it, I can always switch over and show you a wide frame so you see what I'm using. But usually it's just kind of a screen captured photo. I should answer that more accurately. For this series, I'm drawing from a reference. Sometimes I just draw off the top of my head or from sort of remembering seeing someone. Favorite season? I assume you mean winter or like weather, and not like seasoning for food. I'd say winter or fall or autumn, depending on where you're from. I live in San Francisco, so we have like 1 week of summer and then mostly spring and winter. Not a lot of seasons. And then I'm from Texas originally, so in Texas there's 2 seasons, like 2 real seasons. There's harsh winter and harsh summer, and they both have odd timing. Where in Texas did you live? Oh yeah, I lived in Austin for about 20 years. I'm from Houston, I don't think I've ever seen it snow there, but I grew up in West Texas, and it snowed there usually a little bit each year. Um, at least when I was growing up, we only had a few like hard freezes, but it's more prevalent now with the bigger shifts in weather. I tend to see it more like out towards that part of like down I-20, like Abilene areas like that. But a big reason why we left Texas was because we had a pretty bad experience in the power outage from the snowstorm a few years ago. Which I like San Francisco weather for the most part, but I've talked about it so much that I'm almost tired of talking about it, but I really don't like a lot of the people here. It's almost like a worthy trade-off to maybe return to Texas just to not be around as many like tech vest sort of culture crushing people. But I don't know, I think I've seen enough snow. I don't know, I really think about it. I do not like being hot though, so that's one of the major drawbacks of Texas. All right, that's a good stopping point for me. I'm gonna call it early tonight. I'll be back on at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, which is California time. I'm gonna be drawing every day at that time until the 13th. And then I will still go live on a daily basis, but it's going to be at a different time. So if you want to see that, subscribe or whatever, follow along. But yeah, thanks for watching. These will all be saved in the archive if you want to see the whole process. And then when I finish them, they will get time lapse so you can see them come together faster. If you look at my shorts or my videos, there's several in there, so you can kind of see what these look like from start to finish. This is still like at a rough sketch phase, but I'm gonna just call it early tonight. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. I'll be back on at 5 tomorrow to draw the rest of this one. All right, thank you.